Hey, I thought I'd talk about a little something while I wait for my hands to heal. It felt a little better today. I did make a makeshift desk. I also got a mouse pad with a wrist rest. So hopefully a couple more days or whatever of this, or however long it takes, I'll be back to gaming. But I mean, there's not really a whole lot going on right now. I will tell you guys, I did play Earth Dawn for one mission last night. The game is actually pretty cool. It plays kind of like a Vanillaware game if it had like hunting game customization, which I think is a pretty cool mix. Vanillaware games are obviously of a higher quality. The animation is better, the graphics are better, the presentation is better, and especially for a 2D game, that stuff does matter. 2D games are known for aging well. I don't think Earth Dawn is a game that's going to age well because the animation technique they used looks very stiff. It looks very unnatural. It doesn't really have the timeless feel to it. But the game itself is pretty fun, and I think Vanillaware could definitely learn quite a bit from the customization. I obviously have not gotten that far because I've been resting my hands, but I did play about half an hour of it last night. I think it would be cool to see the next Vanillaware game kind of work on that, because pretty much all their games have customization, but it tends to be very limited. You have like Odin Sphere, for instance. You have the skill tree, which is pretty big, but most of the upgrades that you get past the first one are just like base damage increasers. There's not really any interesting builds in that game for the most part. The gear that you get does help a little bit, but you still kind of just run the same stuff, like the Vampiric Ring or the Mars and Saturn Bangle, or like the best things that you can pretty much put on the characters. So whatever's in that third slot doesn't really matter that much. I'll try to put out an overview as soon as I can. What I wanted to talk about today was tempering ambitions when you do something out of the box. And I think this is a pretty big subject right now. We've had so many Kickstarter campaigns fail in the past few years, and a lot of that is because Mighty Number 9 poisoned the well. I didn't really think that campaign could cause such an adverse effect on an entire website, but it definitely has. We've seen people are more wary, they're more cautious about what they will spend money on. Just recently, I think the guys who did Parappa the Rapper, they tried to come back with some new game. I never really played that game much. I didn't really have a PS1 back in the 5th generation. My whole experience with PS1 games was either through backwards compatibility or playing at a friend's house. When I had a PS2, I did play a lot of those games, but apparently people were pretty excited about it, but the problem was that they did not have any gameplay footage at all. I think the video that they had was like just some basic, half like thrown together stuff. And I think they asked for $1 million and they didn't get anywhere near that. I think they even canceled the campaign before it was even finished. Like the Kickstarter campaigns, or the standards for Kickstarter campaigns, have just raised so high. Like, it doesn't seem like you can really sell somebody on backing your project unless you have like a playable demo, or at the very least some decent gameplay footage. Like Bloodstained is probably going to be the last major like big Kickstarter that's going to get funded and go well above the original goal without any gameplay footage. And what they've shown of Bloodstained, I think the game looks great, but the problem that game is going to face is that it's 3D, and the art style that they used obviously looks like they had to make some compromises because of how many consoles they put it on. Now, obviously, when you have the game running on Vita, I believe that they canceled the Wii U version, but the Vita version is going to have to be like separately backported or something. That's definitely something that I'm sure people will have to look into as well. I think the game is going to be good, but the graphics are definitely going to go against it. They definitely should have gone with a more timeless art style, but I feel like that would have ballooned the budget. From what I understand, the initial goal for Bloodstained was basically just an interest check. Like, they already had a publisher in the cards. It's just that they wanted to make sure that there was anybody who actually wanted to play, a 2D 2.5D, Metroidvania game, and obviously there's a huge market for that. I don't know why they didn't just give them all the money they wanted, because there's been so many high quality, indie Metroidvanias made by people with a fraction of the resources that Iga's team has. But I think this goes into a lot of other things too. Even Twitch. Some people. I hear about this a lot. I really don't know if it's true or not, but I keep seeing people complaining about people who think they can quit their day jobs because they got affiliate. I honestly haven't seen anyone doing that. I think I follow quite a few people that have affiliate that are not large streamers, and I don't see any of them doing that. They all still have normal jobs or whatever their primary source of income is. They're making a little extra a month. But it's something that even I've had to do. Like, I've wanted to do a lot of games just this year alone. I kind of wanted to check out Berserk and Dragon Quest Heroes 2 and stuff, but it's just the economical issue is that I can't afford all that stuff. Like, I think sometimes people, I don't get it as much as I used to, but I used to get people saying, why aren't you playing the latest Musou game and stuff? And it's like, well, sometimes I want to, but there's like tons of factors, especially recently. I'm sure you noticed the Koei Tecmo PC ports have been like decreasing in quality. I hear that both Berserk and Spirit of Sanada are like running like crap on people who have beast rigs that could run like an open world AAA game with pretty rock solid performance. Like, when I hear about that, it makes me not want to drop $50-$60 on the game if performance is going to be an issue. Obviously Koei Tecmo games are not known for high fidelity graphics. They're not like the top of the standard. And I think that they look good considering how much crap goes on in their games, but they're definitely not the kind of game that you would bring up to somebody if you want to show the best of what a console or PC could do. And the port quality's been all over the place, so it's been hard for me to justify that. And I know that my channel would be doing better if I did get those games, but at the time I didn't have a capture card. Right now I do have a capture card, and I still can't get it working. Until I can get it working, I'm not going to really be doing any console stuff at all. But I think it's an issue in gaming right now. Is just we have so many talented people that have ambitions, but a lot of people are just giving up. YouTube especially. I'll go back to the guy I talked about the video 2 days ago. Like, he has 80,000 subscribers. He makes like professional quality Kamen Rider videos. Like, that guy could probably get a job at Bandai Namco advertising those belts if he moved to Japan and he had the opportunity. Like, he's that talented, and he's on the brink of quitting. Like, it just goes to show like how messed up the climate is on these sites right now. Like, I think that Twitch, as much as people are complaining about the affiliate program, and I definitely will vouch for it not being perfect, I think having to wait 2 months to get your payout is, I think it's pretty shady. I think that people are donating bits to affiliates thinking that they can get stuff, instantly like they could with PayPal. Instead, it's going to be 2 months later. So, you donate to somebody who needs a video card or a new power supply or a new monitor or whatever, and you donate like the equivalent of like $50 in bits to them. They're not going to see that until 2 months later. I think that's pretty shady, but at the same time, it is definitely a great boon, especially now that they have the subscriber button. I think it's going to be great for streamer retention. I think the problem with Twitch right now is you have these people at the top that obviously make a pretty big percentage of the money for the site, but then you have everybody else under them that is struggling to keep going. I know some people that have may have gotten lucky with getting partnered back when the requirements were less strict, or maybe they had a couple good months or something, and now they're struggling to even make ends meet. I think it's great that Twitch has made it so that there's less of a hierarchy on their site. It's definitely a problem on this site too. Like, there's a huge hierarchy, and it's totally imbalanced. You have the people at the top that are doing pretty well for themselves, whether they're cheating the system or they're not. Some people are cheating the system, some people aren't. You have those people at the top that are very financially stable, and then you have pretty much everyone else under them is struggling, even more so with the advertisers backing out. I think the worst people in the hierarchy on YouTube right now are the people who at some point did make a living wage, but now that the advertisers are starting to rage quit, they're barely making it. I've had a lot of doubts about my channel. A lot of that comes from my major depressive disorder. I feel like I don't make good content. I can't sell as many copies of these games as I'd like to, despite the effort I put into them and learning how to play them and educating people. But at the same time, since I don't rely on this for my living, even though in the past month with my benefits being cut, it definitely has become a more important part of my income. I am definitely better off than the people in the middle, and I think that says a lot. Like, you have the quote unquote middle class on here. That's they were very ambitious back at the start or whenever they started, back when things were a little better on here, and now they're struggling the most. And you have the people like me that are obviously struggling. I'm struggling for reasons that go beyond the site, but most of us aren't really relying on that income. So some of us are still going, but then you have people like the guy who does the Toku videos. He's got, by niche standards, he's got a pretty gigantic channel. I mean, Kamen Rider is not really a well-known franchise outside of Japan. Like, I follow most of the people who watch that stuff on Twitter, and pretty much everybody knows everybody. It's not a very large community. So for him to have 80,000 subscribers is pretty crazy, but even that is not enough to keep him afloat. And I know that he has another job, so for him, he's kind of having doubts about continuing because he doesn't know if it will sustain itself anymore. I just wanted to talk about this because I think people have a common misconception that if you get partnered on these sites, or you have a Kickstarter campaign or something and it goes well, that it just means that you're rich. I think people need to stop that. I know a good example is Shovel Knight. Like, the Shovel Knight campaign, I believe they only asked for $300,000, and you look at that game now, like the post-launch content, they're still not done making the content. I think they've still got one more campaign and I think another extra mode to go. Now, obviously, $300,000 even for an indie studio is pretty much nothing. I think that probably barely pays the living annual wage for the people who work there. I know they're not a large company, but I know they've said that they've had to rely on sales of the game to keep the content going. I think people constantly go back to that as a successful campaign, but they asked for pretty much nothing. I think it was barely enough to get out the base game, and they've kind of had to rely on increasing the value of the game by adding more content, which I think is pretty cool. Devaluing indie games is a huge problem right now. You see games that are high quality, that would probably sell for like $60 if they came out in like maybe the 16-bit or maybe the 5th generation of video games. Like, they would sell for full price back then, and they would be like pretty high quality games. Maybe not like top of the line like first party Nintendo or anything, but like up there. And you see these games being sold for $2 because the developers, or sometimes even just the publishers, don't really respect the work that goes into the projects, and they just put them at $2, and it's created a really big issue with indie games. And PS Plus has done a lot of damage as well. PS Plus, Sony, whether you like indie games or not, I think the reality is that they get a lot of cheap games, and it conditions people to not want to buy them. Nex Machina, I've seen the Twitch directory for that. It's been pretty depressing. I don't think they've gotten a single big channel to play that game on Twitch at all. Like, you have the people that are playing it are all hardcore. It's no different than like a fighting game. A new fighting game comes out and you have like all the big FGC people and the people who do tournaments are playing it, but like there's not really much else. I think that indie games get devalued so fast, and it's a shame because these people have so much ambition, and it's really depressing that people feel like they have to discount their stuff so drastically, sometimes even just a few months after release, just to keep going. It's been I think it's been proven that when you discount a game like that steeply, that it makes more money than having it at full price, and I think that's pretty depressing. Like, I pay full price for the majority of my games. There's stuff like Earth's Dawn, which I'm on the fence about, or maybe I'm just not in a financial situation to buy stuff full price. But I think the gaming industry in general needs to look at how they price stuff, especially since AAA games are doing it. You have AAA games like Skyrim are like $10 every 3 months. Like, you see I know that game is like not the greatest game out there. I think people are saying that it's been overrated, and I know that it's been a meme on social media now that it's on like pretty much every console imaginable. But when you have a game like that that's that big, that's sold for like 75% off like every few months, it makes people not want to pay for smaller stuff. And we're definitely now more than ever, we really need high quality indie games, and we need them to be noticed, and we need them to be sold at a sustainable price, because AAA gaming in general, the AAA climate has just gotten terrible. You have the same four genres over and over, and there's almost no variety anymore. Up until last gen, there was so much more variety in the AAA scene, but now there's barely any. So indie games have had to pick up the slack. Japanese games are what a lot of people would call AA games. Stuff like Sengoku Basara, which obviously has a pretty small budget compared to other Japanese stuff. I imagine, Yukimura Den probably cost like 10% of what Final Fantasy 15 did, but we need indie games as well, and it's a shame that they're all in such a terrible state right now. There's so many games being sold for nothing. I think it's cool that the Streets of Fury developers, they're doing a $2 sale right now, like I mentioned yesterday. They fought, and they stuck to their guns, and they kept the price for that game, at $10. I don't think they discounted it more than like 30 or 40% for, I think, over a year, which I think is pretty crazy, especially since they have been kind of doing a Shovel Knight approach, and they've added several characters since the original launch. I think they have the guy with the glasses coming in the next update. I think they've added like 5 or 6 characters. Now, they came into my stream back when the Furious Edition patch came out, I think last year, and I told them that I thought it was cool that they respected their work. They had to work hard to kind of update that game, listen to feedback. They have improved that game so much. It's definitely one of my favorite speed games because it's like half an hour long. And now that they've added the cutscene skip, but I told them, that it was cool that they valued their work and they didn't just put it at $2 right away. They could make more money doing that, but at the same time, it's kind of just feeding into the problem that the whole like gaming scene has right now, is that games are just expected to be cheap or free. And PlayStation Plus definitely does a lot of damage too. People won't even buy an indie game on launch anymore, even if it's steeply discounted, because they can get it on PS Plus. I've always thought that argument has been a little flawed, simply because you have to pay for PS Plus. You don't actually own the game. You're pretty much paying for a rental. Now I know some people use PS Plus for online, to play Destiny and Call of Duty and Street Fighter and stuff. But if you don't pay for that stuff, it's still better to buy them. But people are just so conditioned now, they don't want to pay for high quality content anymore, and it's kind of an issue on here too. You have a lot of people with Patreons. I'm pretty much blessed to have as much support as I have on here. I know there's a lot of people with even bigger channels than mine that are struggling on Patreon. I think just in general in gaming and content creation, like people don't want to to compensate people for the work. It's even a problem in like the artist scene. You see it a lot. There's a whole Twitter account dedicated to people trying to get like free art and stuff. Like art is not something that people should be making a living off of, even though we rely on art for so many things. Even something as minor as like the Coca-Cola logo. Like you think about how important logos like that are, because you see the logo and you instantly associate it with a product. Yet we have so many people say that, hey, make me this, high quality art for free, and I'll retweet you to my 100 followers or something. Like that happens probably hundreds of times every day on social media now. I think it's a really big problem that we expect high quality content from people who make things that the big guys won't, but at the same time, as a society, we don't want to support those people. We're lucky that on social media, sometimes you can just get a retweet from somebody, and that can make a big difference, even if they can't support you financially. But there's just so many people struggling. I watch, that guy's videos, the Toku Belts, and I'm like, this guy should have a professional job. He should have a much larger channel. He should be able to do like whatever toy franchise he wants and be able to make a living off it. He shouldn't have to have a regular job. He has such a crazy talent that he's making the best out of, but it's just not working for him. I see the stuff he posts on Facebook and Twitter, and he sounds a lot like me. He's always on the verge of quitting. He's dealing with financial instability and kind of the constant issue of just not being able to afford what he needs to run the channel. I think it's a big problem. I really don't know how it can be fixed. All I wanted to tell people is that even if you just comment on a video from someone like me, a small channel, or you buy an indie game at full price and you make a video of it and you give an honest review, I think that really goes a long way. I think indie developers, all people who are trying to do stuff out of the box, We need that now more than ever, especially now that people expect everything for free. You know, you're expected to make like high quality art for free. You know, indie games are expected to be free on PS Plus, and we have, you know, YouTube channels where people can't understand why people promote their Patreon so much. It's a huge problem just across like all parts of the internet, and I just wanted to raise some awareness for it. And I'm lucky to be in a position where it's not as big of a problem for me as others, but I see so many other people I know struggling too, and I just wanted to kind of talk about it and hope to open some eyes a bit. Anyway, I'm going to try to get out an Earth Dawn overview tomorrow after I play a little more, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.